Hello, listeners. Welcome back to The Christian in Pagan Society, Episode 4. These societies were not trade unions. Their functions were primarily social, and they were multitudinous in ancient society. Records exist of guilds of bankers, doctors, architects, producers of woolen and linen goods, dyers, workers in metal, stone, or clay, builders, carpenters, farmers, gardeners, fishers, bakers, pastry cooks, barbers, embalmers, and transport workers. Their ramifications extend to such convivial groups as the late sleepers and late drinkers, who have left their scribblings in jest or earnest on the walls of Pompeii. No other age, writes Dill, felt a greater craving for some form of social life, greater than the family, and narrower than the state. The collegia satisfied the need of the humble, for the pleasures of social intercourse and the dignity of self-expression. On the other hand, the tumult at Ephesus is clear evidence that the social club, under adroit leadership, could become a political weapon in the hands of those whose economic interests coincided. Hence the expressed sensitiveness of the Roman administration, of which Trajan's prohibition of the formation of a fire brigade at Nicomedia is a vivid illustration. The situation in Ephesus was full of portent. Demetrius secured his prime objective. Paul withdrew. Although the tradition of Roman law stood firm, Paul no doubt saw clearly that a watchful state was likely to deal as severely with the church as with its persecutors. Nor, as the next illustration shows, was the fear unjustified. In the year 112 AD, the governor of Bithynia became aware of tension in his province. The Christian church, strong and established, was striking heavily at the roots of paganism, and protests were finding expression. Trade, as in Ephesus, was suffering, and the governor, anxious for peace and prosperity, took action. Pliny was in the habit of consulting Trajan on all matters of importance, and the official correspondence has survived. The letter of Pliny and the imperial reply form the record of an act of repression. The letter is as follows. It should be read carefully, both for the poignant story of ancient suffering and for the light it throws on the motives of persecution. Between the lines it is possible to see the guilds again. It is a rule, sir, which I invariably observe, to refer myself to you in all my doubts. For who is more capable of guiding my uncertainty or informing my ignorance? Having never been present at any trials of the Christians, I am unacquainted with the method and limits to be observed either in examining or punishing them. Whether any difference is to be made on account of age, or no distinction allowed between the youngest and the adult, whether repentance admits to a pardon, or if a man has been once a Christian, it avails him nothing to recant, whether the mere profession of Christianity, albeit without crimes, or only the crimes associated therewith are punishable. In all these points I am greatly doubtful. In the meanwhile, the method I have observed towards those who have been denounced to me as Christians is this. I interrogated them whether they were Christians. If they confessed it, I repeated the question twice again, adding the threat of capital punishment. If they still persevered, I ordered them to be executed. For whatever the nature of their creed might be, I could at least feel no doubt that contumacy and inflexible obstinacy deserved chastisement. There were others also possessed with the same infatuation, but being citizens of Rome, I directed them to be carried thither. These accusations spread, as is usually the case, from the mere fact of the matter being investigated, and several forms of the mischief came to light. A placard was put up, without any signature, accusing a large number of persons by name. Those who denied they were, or had ever been, Christians, who repeated after me an invocation to the gods, and offered adoration with wine and frankincense to your image, which I had ordered to be brought for that purpose, together with those of the gods, and who finally cursed Christ, none of which acts, it is said, those who are really Christians can be forced into performing. These I thought it proper to discharge. Others who were named by the informer at first confessed themselves Christians, and then denied it. True, they had been of that persuasion, but they had quitted it, some 3 years, others many years, and a few as much as 25 years ago. They all worshipped your statue and the images of the gods, and cursed Christ. They affirmed, however, the whole of their guilt, or their error, was that they were in the habit of meeting on a certain fixed day before it was light, when they sang in alternate verses a hymn to Christ as to a god, and bound themselves by a solemn oath not to any wicked deed, but never to commit any fraud, theft, or adultery, never to falsify their word, nor deny a trust when they should be called upon to deliver it up, after which it was their custom to separate, and then reassemble to partake of food, but food of an ordinary and innocent kind. Even this practice, however, they had abandoned after the publication of my edict, by which, according to your orders, I had forbidden political associations. I judged it so much the more necessary to extract the real truth, with the assistance of torture, from 2 female slaves who were styled deaconesses, but I could discover nothing more than depraved and excessive superstition. I therefore adjourned the proceedings, and betook myself at once to your council, for the matter seemed to me well worth referring to you, especially considering the numbers endangered. Persons of all ranks and ages, and of both sexes, are, and will be, involved in the prosecution. For this contagious superstition is not confined to the cities only, but has spread through the villages and rural districts. It seems possible, however, to check and cure it. It is certain, at least, that the temples, which had been almost deserted, begin now to be frequented, and the sacred festivals, after a long intermission, are again revived, while there is a general demand for sacrificial meat, which for some time past had met with but few purchasers. From hence it is easy to imagine what multitudes may be reclaimed from this error, if a door be left open to repentance. Thanks for listening. See you next week as we continue The Christian in Pagan Society.